Calling our city commission meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. This time we have our invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's pray together. Father, thank you for this time to come and to discuss the business for the city of Lynn Haven. Ask, oh God, that you would anoint us now with your wisdom, that you would fill our minds with your words, that you would fill our hearts with your desires, that we might make decisions according to your will. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen. This time we open the floor for public commentary. Please state your name and address for the record and address your concerns to the chair.
Jody Moore on Amherst Street. I guess you guys were bored or you missed me or something like that. I'm not sure. The reason I'm coming is to discuss what came up on Friday about stopping citizens who don't live in Lynn Haven city limits, and I'm assuming business owners, from coming to speak at these meetings. So I just want to address that. I think this is a solution in search of a problem. I'm not sure why this is even coming up, and I'd really like to know the reason. So basically what you're doing, if you discuss this, pass this kind of thing, you're stopping people who live in College Point, like me, surrounded by Lynn Haven, people who live behind the proposed grease pro that you all passed that you think is a good idea. You're stopping them from coming unless there's an agenda item. So you want to limit speaking in open public commentary like I'm doing right now. So you're stopping people from doing that. These are your friends and neighbors, and you want to keep them from doing that. I want to understand the real reasons why you want to do this. I've just given you a downside of why that would be a bad idea. So again, I'm waiting to hear the discussion. I think that this is limiting freedom of speech. I don't know why anybody would be for this. I understand that Pat was actually not really in favor of this, at least on Friday. So that's a good thing for him. So anyway, like I said, I'm waiting to hear the discussion, and I just want you to know that I'm very opposed to this.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? Ms. Walker?
1106 Michigan Avenue here in Lynn Haven, Florida, 32444. My question is, very often on the agenda, when it is under the city manager's report, the warrant list update, I would like to ask questions, but it appears that many past meetings, it's not asked of the citizens in the audience if they would like to comment or if they have a question. So my question to you is, before I do it again during tonight's meeting, can the citizen question the warrant list?
Not at this time. It's something that we can follow up on.
So not ever at a commission meeting or not at this time? I can question it during when it's not listed on the agenda?
What I'm saying is you're asking if you can come up and ask questions for the warrant list, and what I'm saying is not at this time. Additional public commentary?
Jerry Parker, Red Place. I see repeatedly that y'all are continuing to give projects to Chris Forehand. And what I would like to know, and you can nod yourself yes or no, has anyone on this panel asked him what he got immunity for? Yes or no? Amy, thank you. Anyone else? No? Mr. Peebles, have you asked him? Mayor, have you asked him what he got immunity for? You're not going to answer me. You're just going to stare at me. Vicki, have you? Another stare. Ms. Vandergrift? Have you asked Chris Forehand what he got immunity for his crimes against City of Lynn Haven?
Please address your questions to the chair, not to every individual member. I've mentioned that before.
Well, I think the city deserves that answer. The citizens deserve an answer. He committed a crime against the city of Lynn Haven. That's what he got immunity for. So y'all should let the citizens of Lynn Haven know that.
Additional public commentary. It's Corey.
Good evening, Corey Langford, 1112 Louisiana Avenue. I had an opportunity to listen to the pre-commission meeting that occurred on Friday, and I too wanted to come and at least voice my opinion on thoughts about who can and can't speak during public commentary. Commissioner Perno, I wanted to say thank you for what you brought up during the meeting. I thought you brought some very good points and some insight. As far as the sign-in sheet is concerned, I would be an advocate for signing in like right before the meeting. Commissioner Peebles made a good point that, you know, if there's something that you all want to follow up with us on, you know, that would be a good tool to have our contact information to reach out to get some questions. I don't believe it's a good idea to restrict people from outside of Lynn Haven from speaking. I understand the why. But honestly, I think there's going to be more negative publicity to the city of Lynn Haven by restricting people that don't live in Lynn Haven from speaking than it would be unfortunately just take what's said. I'm not saying that I agree or disagree with everything that's said in public commentary, and I know that you all don't as well. But unfortunately, I feel like it's kind of the nature of the beast. I feel like it's something that it's just going to have to happen. I don't like it any more than the next person. You know, my hope is that everybody brings some sort of constructive process. I don't agree with everybody up here on this commission or the mayor from time to time, or even Ms. Gaynor. You know, but you know, we always are able to talk through things and come to some sort of solution in some instances. And I've always appreciated the fact that you all are at least willing to listen. So thank you for allowing right now everyone to come up and talk. I hope that it remains that way. But I would be an advocate to allow people to continue to come speak during public commentary, even if they don't live in Lynn Haven. Perfect example, if I drive to Tyndall and back and forth every day. I drive through the city of Panama City, Callaway, Parker, so on and so forth. And, you know, if there's something that affects me every day and I feel like that I need to go to one of their meetings, I would like to think that I could still go and make myself heard because I'm a user of their cities. So just something to chew on as you guys think through this. And then one final point I wanted to make is that there was a comment made that, well, you know, if it's an individual that doesn't live in the city of Lynn Haven, you know, that it might sway our vote one way or the other because of an idea that they brought up. Again, Mr. Perk, thank you. You know, I think any of us would be more than willing to hear all ideas, regardless of where you live. So thank y'all, I appreciate it.
Additional public commentary. Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue, Lynn Haven. Good evening. I heard that conversation by the young lady about the freedom of speech, and I heard about the workshop, and there was a rumor that you were discussing changing the rules to have only citizens of Lynn Haven to be able to do public commentary or speak at the meetings. This has been tried before. It didn't work. You're going to, just in one incident, disenfranchise a lot of people that are not citizens in Lynn Haven, but have to pay money to Lynn Haven. You're going to direct them to do something without the right of representation. That's against the law. You have no representation because you have to charge them for money for the water they get from Panama City. But they're not allowed to come to this meeting and speak about it. So you have done something or are contemplating doing something that is against the normal grain of public speaking. I hope you take in consideration these people that you're disenfranchising. Citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? If not, we'll move to the mayor's report. Just want to thank everyone that has worked diligently over these past couple of weeks with the storm cleanup. I think we had a good outpouring from our staff and making sure that our streets were cleaned expeditiously and that reports were made. Thank you to the citizens for informing us as well of the different issues and blockages that were in the city. So it definitely took all of us working together to get that taken care of. And so thank you everyone for working together with that. And also a thank you to our sister cities that reached out during that time, with well wishes as well as with, opening up their arms to assist wherever assistance was needed. So thankfully we didn't need as much assistance in the city of Lynn Haven as some of our other sister cities did. So very thankful for that as well. And thank you to staff and citizens for great MLK celebration. I think city manager reported we had upwards of 4,000 people that came throughout that day. And so just a great turnout of unity in our community, diversity on all fronts, from the music to the food to just the attendance. And so just a great time. Looking forward to our future events in Sheridan Sheffield, as well as our next MLK celebration. This time we'll read our proclamation for Black History Month, and it reads, whereas since 1976, every U.S. president has officially designated the month of February as National Black History Month to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience. And whereas the United States joins other countries around the world in devoting a month to recognize Black history, including Canada and the United Kingdom. And whereas the observance of Black History Month began in 1926 when Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse Moreland sponsored the first National Negro History Week, which was celebrated the second week in February, and later in the 1960s as part of the Civil Rights Movement, the observance evolved into Black History Month. And whereas much of the city of Lynn Haven's honor, strength, and success can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by residents of this great city, and whereas African Americans have played significant roles and made lasting contributions to our city's history and the history of Florida's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to contribute to every aspect of American society, including business, education, politics, sciences, and the arts. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to celebrate, to remember the contributions and legacy of those who helped to build our nation, fought against prejudice to secure lives of dignity and opportunity for all of our citizens, advanced the cause of civil rights for all Americans, and strengthened our families and communities. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jesse Nelson, and the City Commission do hereby encourage all residents in the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, to join me in honoring the many contributions made by African Americans to our city, state, and nation, and to participate in the many educational and inspirational events as we celebrate and proclaim the month of February as Black History Month. And witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, to be affixed this 23rd day of January 2024. This time we'll have a report by Commissioner Peoples.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to say thanks to Mr. Lovechuck for his time on the CRA Advisory Board. Thanks for all you did. Also wanted to thank Ms. Pamela Folger for putting your application in for the Beautification Board. I also attended the Martin Luther King Jr. event, fantastic event, well done by everyone involved, staff, vendors, everybody that put that on. It was a great event. I brought my family and we had a good time. I also want to say that on Saturday, I'll be having coffee at Sola from 8 to 9. If anyone wants to come out and talk to me about whatever's on your mind, I'm going to try to start rotating local coffee shops every one Saturday every month so that we can meet face-to-face, dedicated time for whoever wants to come see me and talk about what's on your mind. Also, we had some citizens reach out to me about some minor stormwater stuff, and I just wanted to thank Mrs. Gaynor and Chris Lightfoot and everybody else that was involved that was able to get that resolved very quickly. And that's my report. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Purnell?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank all the staff and everybody who was involved with the Martin Luther King Day in Sheffield Park. It was really amazing. So it was fun, and those boys from Mosley, they rocked the house, man. Loose cannon. Those they were homeschooled kids, and they were playing Metallica, man. They were letting it go out there. It was really cool. And thank you, Jody and Mr. Corey, because I appreciate how y'all feel about that. I think freedom of speech is something that we need, and we need more people participating in our meetings, not less people. But as far as that goes, I wish I could remember what I said on Friday because I was tired from a road trip down south. But I know I know where my heart is on that. But I do want to say thank you to everybody who actually you had a lot of folks out there. Again, people that work for our city are, they're over and above all the time. All you guys. I mean, if we have something going on, we don't have an entertainment department that comes in and runs stuff. Y'all run it. And time after time, I've seen this over the time I've served on this commission. And you guys give tirelessly and selflessly all the time for things to happen in our city. And I can't thank y'all enough. So, and our police and fire and our dispatchers. Thank y'all. That's my report.
Commissioner Ward.
We don't leave me anything else more to talk about.
Not a nibble.
I don't have a whole lot. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the Martin Luther King event. As probably most of you already know, I've been having some medical stuff going on, but everything's going well. I wasn't able to do my time with the commissioner this month, but I plan on doing it next month. So I hope some of you come out to that. Besides that, I've been keeping track of some of the bills that have been going through the state. One of the big ones that I know that affects us is the short-term rentals. With this bill, it'll allow us to require them to register with the city. Me personally, I don't think it does enough. I think they need to give more authority to us to be able to control some of those things in case we do have a short-term rental that becomes a problem. What was the other bill? Oh, there's another one that affects comprehensive plan, which we know was coming up that we're reviewing, that limits on what some of the things we can do as far as density of some of the land use codes and things like that. And then this one I don't know how many residents are aware of, but there's a bill there that talks about places that you cannot bring a concealed firearm into, and one of them is a religious worship place, and I think probably most people around here would be against that. So hopefully that doesn't go through. I haven't seen any votes on it yet or anything, but just to make sure the residents are aware of. But other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Vandegrift. You forgot to wear the blue shirt today.
Obviously, I'm kind of,
Yeah.
yes, I know.
Yeah, we got to color coordinate that next time,
I'll work on that.
Thank you.
The other commissioners have commented about the Martin Luther King Day celebration. I took three of my granddaughters. I wanted to have an opportunity to discuss with them just why they were off school. And like the other commissioner said, it was a great day. And it was a great day because I saw in the eyes of my grandchildren that they were enjoying playing and interacting with all races. And they even commented on that. The 7-year-old said, Martin Luther King had a dream that we could all play together. And I know that's a simplistic way to express it, but Again, that's through the eyes of a 7-year-old. And what we saw were white children, black children, Asian, Hispanic, and they were all having a good time. And so I just want to I know that the city took on this responsibility, but I thank you for doing it. I think it's going to be very meaningful for the city of Lynn Haven. That's all.
City Manager.
Yes. Warrant list, please. Any questions? Okay. Stormwater update.
Before we go to the stormwater update, it might be good for, I don't know if have we introduced our new financial director for the public?
Not to the public. Police Daniel Pete is our new finance director. Daniel comes from Pensacola and has a lot of background in accounting. So he will be the person that you will see from now. We've had pretty good transitions thus far.
And if you do have questions about the warrant list, follow up with City Manager and Mr. Daniel. Thank you.
Good evening. There we go. So we haven't had an update in a couple months, but just want to bring everybody up to speed on the stormwater projects and maintenance that's going on this fiscal year. The HMGP projects that we've talked about for quite a while now. So all of our plans are 100% complete, except the Pine Forest project. It's at 90%, and we will have the 100% plans in the next probably 2 weeks on that and submit for the rest of our permits. And then for our reimbursements to the state and our construction document, our construction dollars to get approved so we can move forward with the construction portion of these projects. Our legislative stormwater project, the phase 1 is complete. They've got a few minor punch list items that came from the storm the other day on a couple of the head walls, had some erosion around them. They're getting those addressed. And they're working on phase 2 still of our permits. It's in the Army Corps, so it could be next week or it could be 6 months with the Corps. You never know how those permits go. Hopefully you see this new piece of equipment around town. It's called an Intergreen, and it has a 33-foot reach used for digging and mowing ponds and ditches. The head on it right there is called a flail head, so it helps mow like the Publix ditch over there in Bel Air Estates. It has a reach that can go all the way across. The pond, for example, behind Mowat Highlands and 17th Street, that pond that we have that long reach, now we can get in there and get that. So it will help with our stormwater maintenance and like the rails to trails ditch. We can actually go down there and actually mow from side to side on that and keep that maintained and cut a little more efficient than a regular bush axe can. Concrete ditches, slow and steady process. The picture on the left there is at 12th and Georgia Avenue. The sidewalk had actually kind of started falling into the ditch there because the ditch would erode the ground. So when we had the concrete sidewalk poured back, we also concreted the ditch in, so it's a nice firm surface now, and we won't have to dig it anymore either. The middle picture was part of the phase 1 legislative stormwater project. We concrete canvassed the ditch there at 13th and Missouri, and that's an outfall. And then the picture on the right is the railroad alley ditch. It's almost complete, still got a little more ways to go. The guys are working on that as they get time from their other work orders. And that's part of the CRA canvas project that you all approved last year. And then this is just the placeholder that we like to bring you all every year. This is our fiscal year 24 ditch digging map. You'll probably start seeing some white lines on the asphalt where the contractor is calling in the locates, and they will get started any day as soon as the locates start clearing. And they will be working starting in the 17th and Delaware area and kind of working clockwise around the city back in those zones. And then just a reminder of our stormwater assessment plans to keep everybody refreshed. November has come and gone. A lot of people had their stormwater assessment in their escrow as part of their mortgage. And then there's still some folks paying their stormwater assessment through their tax bill in these months. But just want to remind everyone of the assessment and what we do with it. In all of the previous slides, the maintenance that we mentioned, such as the ditch digging, the culvert replacements, the concrete canvas, et cetera. The grant match portions when available, pays for our staffing in the stormwater division, all the guys that do those projects and do the maintenance, pay for equipment along with our impact fees. And just a reminder, a lot of our CIP projects are funded from outside sources because they're a large, $4 and $5 million project that is not funded with the stormwater assessment. So just wanted to keep that on everybody's radar of what we do with those funds. Any questions?
Questions? One quick question about the concrete ditches. Where are we at as far as getting them all done? Like,
Many, many, many years away from being fully done with that. But slowly, taking a bite of the elephant, slowly at the time.
Bite at a time.
Concrete canvas, when we have projects like that, even if it's a small little portion, going ahead and getting it done. It will take many years to do every ditch, of course, but really focusing on the main outfalls and the main arteries of the ditch to keep those open. And any ones that, that we've had, like over there on 10th Street, we did that one first because it was one that we had to dig all the time. So anyone that's really a nuisance ditch, we try to get.
and one more question about 12th Street in Virginia, that low-lying area right there.
Right.
Is there any progress with the
So
homeowner?
the concrete flume has been poured, and then Ty has reached out to some of his tree folks, and as soon as it had dried out enough that they could dig, they would be planting trees in that area to help dry up the lowlands in the right-of-way there.
Additional questions?
I just wanted to say thank you for putting this together. I know I've asked for it a few times, and this was excellent, so thank you.
I do have a question for, I know previously we've talked about getting permits to clean out or do some work there in McCain Creek in the Moat Highlands area. Do we have any progress on that?
That is part of the Dundee project. The first one that we submitted, they did not like the, running equipment all down in the ditch bottom and widening that. So they kind of narrowed the scope to right there at Dundee, the crossing there. There's a home that's at the corner of, is that Dundee and Inverness, right there, to kind of widen that. It was built close to the creek and kind of stabilize that bank and get the water flow, widen there. But as far as deepening and widening the creek, that is not in the works yet.
Okay. All right, any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Just remind everyone that on February 5th at 6 p.m., we'll be doing the vulnerability workshop. It'll be very interactive, and we hope that everyone comes out and be a part of it. We started this year with a new pro volleyball. We have 120 participants, and it is going really, really well. One of the things that we promised residents is we just wouldn't do basketball. And so we have expanded that scope to offer volleyball and basketball, pickleball, inside, out, and we're looking at other activities for everyone. So commend Sports and Recs on their first year of doing that. March 9th is opening day at the sports complex. Last year, we had roughly around 700 youth to participate. Before Hurricane Michael, I know that it was over 1,000 youth that participate. We expect that probably will be the case this year as our programs grow. And again, thank everyone for MLK Day. I thought it was really great. Thank Mr. Hines and his brother for helping us transition with the city. But they worked just as hard as we did, so we want to thank them very much. So at Kane Griffin, we still will have teams that play and practice there, people that practice there. And one of the things that we have had a problem with is that owners walking their dogs and leaving a surprise for everyone there. And so we have put out signs, and we'll pull out signs that say no dogs allowed. It's not that we don't like dogs, we love dogs. We have a wonderful dog park, and I know so many people use it. But all of the nice surprises that are inside of the fields and around, it makes it very difficult for teams to get out there and practice and have a really good time. And we're constantly having to clean that up as well as take care of the grass within those fields. So we just ask that you would just please help us to manage that as much as possible. And lastly, near last, the tree giveaway. We're going to have 2 tree giveaways. One is February 3rd and one is February 17th. Surely hope you come out and be a part of that. I also attended a grand opening here in the city of Lynn Haven. It's called Prime Aesthetics and Wellness, and we hope that their business does really well here in the city of Lynn Haven. That's my report.
You. And I guess in regards to Kane Griffin, I'm glad I didn't step in that stuff that you mentioned. But it is awesome to see that it's still being utilized, even beyond the regular sports that happen there. Although we've opened our sports complex, I still see families use the batting cages. The other day when I went out, I actually had to practice with my daughter on the t-ball field because all the other fields were taken up with people out practicing, which is great. So it was great to see. I think it was, 40 degrees outside Sunday, but people were still playing tennis, still playing basketball, still practicing softball, baseball. So still great. I know there was a question about what's going to happen in Kane Griffin whenever we open a sports complex. And so it's still a great asset to our city and to our community as well. So I'm glad we're still utilizing that. And I do like the lights I know they've been in there for a while now, but the batting cage lights at night, I like those. Those are really, really cool. So I can sneak out there late at night after everybody leaves and still do some batting practice. So I think that was a really good idea to put those out there. Again, I know they're something we've installed previously, but just wanted to mention I think those are good as well. City Attorney.
Sure. And I know the mayor asked me to kind of touch back on the short-term rentals and look at that legislation. As Commissioner Warwick mentioned, there are 2 bills out there, Senate Bill 280, and then there's a companion House Bill 1587 that was sponsored by Representative Griffiths. They're both very similar. There's a couple small differences about, what fee. One says you can charge a reasonable fee for registration. One says $150. One says you have to display it on your unit. But otherwise, in large part, they're very similar. And the big thing is the registration program. Now, obviously, I know the League of Cities still opposes these because, one, I'm sure they want it to do more, and two, it still maintains all those same preemptions as far as you can't, specifically zone short-term rental properties. You can't regulate the duration, all that sort of stuff. But I think it's a step in the right direction. If we can have a registration program, make sure that that's displayed. You'll have a point of contact, 24 hours a day. All that I think is a step in the right direction. And, and it also, if these bills pass, it'll be one or the other. The ultimate enforcement is really still at DVPR. But if somebody doesn't register, we can turn them in for that. And this one gives the cities the authority to actually revoke that registration, for certain violations. And you can, again, turn that into DVPR, and they can actually suspend their state license because, for the period of time where your city registration is revoked. So, I think it's moving in the right direction. It's a lot more robust than the one, last year that failed, which was a pretty basic registration program. And this also, which doesn't really it's not going to probably affect Lynn Haven that much, but it actually tells the, what do they call them, the advertising platforms, so the actual websites themselves that people use, that they make those platforms be responsible for the payment of the taxes and fees. So like if you're in an area with a TDC bed tax or certain sales taxes, they will actually have to remit that, on behalf of the owner to the different taxing authorities, which I think, could be good. And then they also are asking the division, DVPR, to set up a database, a website where you can go on and look and say, okay, do they have their license? Do they have their local registration? All that sort of stuff, which, the cities can look at it, renters, all that. So, again, I know the league's opposing it probably because it's still preemption, but it is a step in the right direction. Both of those are moving through committee, so we'll continue to monitor that over the next several weeks.
Thank you for taking a look at those and doing that comparative analysis, because I started looking at the Senate one, read through that one, and then did see Representative Griffiths and start comparing the two. And then after about another 30 pages or so, decided that I did see they were very similar, but you did answer the question.
They're probably about 90% the same, honestly.
Yeah, but you did answer the question that I couldn't easily determine, and that was if there were any repercussions for not registering with the city.
Right.
You know, I did see there was suspension and revoking of license, and so as you're saying that would also go to DBPR and that they could revoke their license.
Right, yeah, two
in
things.
that
One
period.
is, we would, if these pass, the city would come back and do an ordinance and actually put that registration process in place. And then if they violate, and again, that ordinance has to comply with the statute, but if they violate that, and it does give the city's authority to revoke their registration. That doesn't take away their state license, but it does say you can turn them in for that, and that's one of the things that DVPR will say, well, hey, you don't have your local registration per this ordinance, and then they can suspend it.
Got it. I do plan on going to the League of City Action Days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're setting up meetings with Representative Griffiths and Senator Trumbull. And so since Representative Griffiths is sponsoring this bill, that's one reason I specifically wanted us to discuss it, because we will have some one-on-one time with him to give some recommendations on some things that we would like to see changed in that from a local perspective. I do like the fact that they, define the limits in regards to, the monetary fees and such. So that is already outlined for us. So it's really sort of a turnkey registration process in the sense of what they've already defined. We can just almost copy and paste that.
What you can ask for, because you can say, how many beds or how many rooms. I mean, you can ask for certain information, have that on your register, so you'll know, if there's a fire inspection or a building inspection, and say, well, hold on, you're only supposed to have, 6 rooms, and now they've got 12,
Yeah.
make them amend it, and you can only do it once a year and all that stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's be a good step in the right direction for sure.
Any other comments or questions for City Attorney regarding that that proposed bill? All right. Any other questions for him in general while we have him here with us?
And I do have more comments on public commentary, but I know we've got it on the agenda on item 15, so I figured we'd wait and hash it all out then.
Sounds good. All right. Any other questions for him? Okay. Thank you. At this time, moving on to our consent agenda, approval of minutes for 1/9/24, regular meeting minutes, approval to appoint Ms. Pamela Folger to the Beautification Board, and approval to declare asset TH Pump 3 for 112 as surplus and auction off. Is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Vandegrift. City Manager, call the vote.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift,
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. New business. First reading of ordinance 1165, repealing ordinance number 1080, granted to ACMT South LLC for certain ad valorem tax exemptions for failure to meet the criteria for such exemptions. We did have some discussion on this on Friday. Are there any additional comments or questions for the city attorney or Mr. Janke? Being that there are none, is there a motion for this? Oh, my bad.
To read this?
Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I think we have to read
Okay.
it.
Go ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, repealing ordinance number 1080, granting to ACMT South LLC for certain ad valorem tax exemptions for failure to meet the criteria for such exemptions and providing an effective date.
Just a reminder, this, under our old ordinance, there's actually a 14-day certified mail or service process notice to that owner. So I doubt it will be back for the next meeting. Depends how quickly they can get that notice out. And then we'll still do our normal 10-day public advertising of like we do every other ordinance. But just for, CJ, just remember, just hold off on that until we get the green card back that the other notice has been served. Now that we've done first reading, we'll send that out this week. I'll get with Ben.
12, discussion and possible approval to accept a cash donation of $16,345.07 for bicycle safety improvements project on sidewalk construction at East 26th Street. Mr. Yankee spoke to us about this on Friday, that there was a local citizen group or local citizen that wanted to ensure bicycle safety in the local area, and that our Rails to Trails provided that opportunity for them to dispose of those funds so they could close out those accounts, and just needed our approval so that we could accept this donation and move forward with that. So are there any additional questions for Mr. Yankee?
No questions. I just want to thank whoever it is. I wish I could thank them in person, but thank you very much for their generosity.
Yes, thank you for your desire to continue to improve bicycle safety in Lynn Haven and Bay County. We do know that cyclists are, in danger on a regular basis. So I am very excited about the Rails or Trails because of that. It gives the cyclists a safe route. So we're glad about that as well. Mr. Yankee.
And Mayor, maybe just for the record, I reached out to the individual, and the individual prefers to remain anonymous. So I made the offer to, publicly recognize the individual, but the individual preferred to.
Got it. So when we write a thank you note, we just write it to blank. Yeah.
I can send this thank you note to the.
Okay. If you'll do that for us. Yeah. I want to sign it before you send it though.
Good.
Send a receipt for the money. Seriously, send it. We need to send a receipt for the money.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Ward. Any comments from the public? All right. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Agenda item number 13, discussion of possible approval to award an annual landscape maintenance contract for the Lynn Haven Rail to Trail Diamond Landscape Management LLC in the amount of $12,060 for a period of 1 year, with a 1-year renewal option that may be exercised by the city. We discussed this on Friday. Are there any additional questions for Mr. Ty? If not, is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Vandegrift. Any comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Walk 1106 Michigan Avenue, Lynn Haven, Florida, 32444. Can you tell me where the $12,060 is coming from? Is it general fund, or is there something set aside just for Rails to Trails?
It's coming out of general fund.
Pardon?
General fund under
General fund?
community services, yes.
Does it have the name Rails to Trails on, or is it just coming out of the?
It's coming out of that department's for community services
Yes.
budget. Yeah. And one of the reasons we're contracting this out, as I understand Mr. Fair is saying, is that our staff is already overextended with our city maintenance. And so wanted to make sure that we didn't overlook the Rails or Trails. And so we're hiring this out, contracting this out to make sure that we can upkeep the Rails or Trails and also not continue to overextend our staff that's already keeping our maintenance up, or our lawn maintenance up on a daily basis. And so they do a great job of that. So thank you all for keeping our city pristine. We certainly appreciate it. All right, any other public commentary? All right, so those vote, motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Vandegrift. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Parno?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Commissioner Peebles?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Discussion and possible approval of Resolution 2024-01426 to amend the adopted general fund, CRA, and enterprise fund budgets. Are there any additional questions for our
Mr. P.
Director of Finance? If you'll come up, please. Yeah. You could just briefly tell us what the amendments are that we're making to the general fund, CRA, and enterprise fund, just for public information, please?
Sure. Each year, the city must amend the fiscal budget to include the open purchase order balances from the previous fiscal year that we didn't use by September 30th, our year end. So all of these have been previously approved by the commission. Submitted a list to you all. Last year, it was roughly 9% of our budget. This year, it's 7%. Primarily, it's infrastructure contracts that are still there.
All right, are there any additional questions?
I just want to say, make sure everyone understands, we're not spending any more money. This was stuff that was last fiscal year that just never got spent, and it's getting spent this fiscal year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Essentially just a rollover. Right.
Yes, sir.
All right, additional questions? Is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, public commentary. A motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Ward. And City Manager, if you read the resolution, please.
Okay. Resolution 2024-01-426, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the final budget for fiscal year 2023-2024 and providing an effective date.
All right, again, motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Ward. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Vandegrift?
Yes.
Commissioners Peebles?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Agenda item number 15, discussion only of Chapter 2, Article 7, public meetings. First, let me open by saying we are not bringing up this discussion to specifically target public meetings and public commentary. For those that have been listening for the several past months, we have been organizing, myself with the guidance of city manager and city attorney, actually going through all of our ordinances. So we're going through chapter by chapter. So you're going to find a lot of things coming up in our meetings. Just so happens this is in chapter 2, and this is one of the few things that we can discuss in chapter 2 that doesn't already have some updates or changes that have been made to it. For example, public records is in chapter 2. However, public records just says we're just doing what the state says. So, I mean, there's no discussion there. It's just what the state says. So, do want to just say that this is not just myself or us targeting a particular group or whatever in regards to public commentary. We're going to be going through the majority of our ordinances chapter by chapter. And so I would encourage you to stay tuned and continue to stay informed and continue to, we're going to have those ordinances in our packet so that you can see what those are as we discuss those things. And it's going to be a process. So it's not going to just happen within the next 3 to 6 months. It's going to be, hopefully Commissioner Perno is still on the commission by the time we finish this project. But if not, it'll be on the second. Hopefully the next commission will continue that project. But there are a lot of ordinances that you brought to our attention that you say, hey, these are outdated. I think Mr. Corey has brought some to our attention. Hey, these are outdated. So we're going through chapter by chapter to try to review those that we think are relevant to the city of Lynn Haven and try to contemporize those as much as possible. So just want to say this is why this particular part was picked up, because when you look at chapter 2, there's really nothing else there for us to discuss for change other than this one. Some asked earlier, why was some of the discussion made the way that it was? I do know that there have been, over the past couple of years, there have been citizens from the city of Lynn Haven that have requested that we do make changes. I don't know if they've reached out to all the commissioners, but there have been citizens that have requested that we do make changes to how we handle our public meeting commentary. And so that's one of the reasons this discussion comes up. But right now it's only discussion, so we're not voting on anything today. The plan is that we've heard comments on Friday. We'll hear comments today. Ms. Cecilia is providing me with the notes from those, and so I'll pull some of those together, meet with city attorney, and update this particular Article 7, and then bring something back to the commission for us to discuss further based on sort of a consensus or the comments that we have here, so we can actually have something to look at in regards to, what we want to redline or what we want to emphasize. So we hope to have that done by the next meeting to bring something back to you. But if not, then it'll be that second meeting in February that we'll try to bring something back. And that's sort of going to be the plan, as him and I have talked, is that we'll discuss something. And so it may take 2 or 3 meetings of us discussing it, putting it together, and then coming back, making those changes. But we would do the changes chapter by chapter. So for example, when we get to chapter 6, we're not going to just do, individual parts of it. We're going to make all the changes in that one ordinance, or that within that one chapter, to update it all at one time for municipal code. So that's how we'll handle that moving forward. So this time, floor is open for discussion, or dais is open for discussion in regards to chapter 2 public meetings.
Yeah, maybe before you get started, I can kind of,
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it's a discussion item only. It's kind of the only thing in chapter 2 we're looking at. When you look at this article, you could tell it was a 1996 ordinance. And even that's outdated, because in 2013, the legislature came out with 286-0114, which really clarified the history of the law, through case law and all that sort of stuff. And so, we hear comments like, oh, well, that's, you're violating the law, that's illegal, you're violating our First Amendment. Just said it before, I'll say it again. You only have a right at a city commission meeting or any sort of board meeting to talk about the legislature calls it a proposition, but really it's a voting item on the agenda. So, absolutely, unequivocally, everybody in the public, I don't care where you live, has a right to come to the meeting and discuss, voting item or proposition. It excludes, ministerial items, proclamations, meeting minutes, stuff like that. So if you wanted to, you can say, look, you can't talk about that. You just have to stick to the agenda items. What Lynn Haven and most every city I've been around does above and beyond that is have an open public commentary, whether it's at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting. We do not have to, no city or county has to do that. We do it just because it feels like it's the right thing to do. But I mean, you're certainly not violating any law to say, look, there's going to be no public commentary for the good of the order, or if you're going to limit that sort of stuff, that's not illegal. It's totally permitted. Panama City Beach went through that in a previous administration. They stopped doing it when the current mayor is there. So they kind of reverted back to what we're doing now, about 3 or 4 years ago. And has worked much better. I mean, I'll say the beach's commentary was when they had those rules in place where they were trying to say, okay, sign up, you have to be a city resident or a taxpayer or utility customer. It was still on an honor system. People would try to get around it, and they had more comment from even citizens. The comments were always about public comment, kind of like we heard today. And so what I'm saying is sort of a warning what happened at the beach, that it hasn't, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix what's not broken, obviously. But yes, you certainly can eliminate that segment of the agenda. You can limit what you want there, but it does cause more backlash and criticism. That's probably honestly not needed, because remember, you always are going to limit to 3 minutes. You're going to keep decorum, that sort of stuff. So obviously, the chairman can handle that. But going back to Article 7 itself, I mean, it is a little antiquated. It talks about the sign-in sheets and that sort of stuff. Certainly you guys can institute that if you want to. I think it sort of depends on who the mayor or who the chairman of that board is. I remember, I think years ago, Walt Kelly was up here and he'd have his little slips of paper and go through all the people that signed up, because I'm sure that helped him keep that organized. You can look around the room and recognize people. But it is outdated in that sense. So, I mean, I think this probably will be something that comes back, and we'd make an ordinance change. And if this is the only thing in Chapter 2, then that'll just be all the ordinance is, and we'll wait to do another one when we get to Chapter 3. But yeah, I did want to just touch on, that there is a statute out there that governs all this, and then also the experience that Panama City Beach had, where, it was, I think they even had a lawsuit about it, and the city won, because they were able to limit it how they wanted to. But this new administration said that just wasn't worth the complaints and the backlash, and let's go back to what we're doing now. You can come up at the beginning if you want to talk about non-agenda items or ministerial things like the minutes or the warrant list, for example. I mean, you talk about that during your first 3 minutes. You can talk about 30, whatever you can get in 3 minutes, talk about it. And then if it's an agenda item, wait, like we do now, to that particular item, and you ask them, talk about that. Everybody has the right, well, yeah. Well, and right now, we're not limiting the public commentary either. I would suggest that we probably don't, but it's up to you.
Any response to City Attorney or questions for what he mentioned to us? Thank you for that. Any follow-up for him?
Not for the attorney, I don't, but I have some things to say if nobody else has anything.
Again, thank you for that follow-up and that clarity on what state statute says, and then sort of what has been the standard procedure among some of our other municipalities in the Bay County area as well. We appreciate it. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, so I thought we had a really good discussion about this. We talked about the pros and cons of some things, and I brought up the question, this was me, of where do you draw the line when it comes to public commentary? And the reason I bring that up is, and I don't want to say his name because I don't want to give him any credit, but I watch a lot of other cities and even county meetings, not even here locally, but across the country. And you see a lot of these, I'll call YouTubers that go out and they just create disruption, they create problems. And we had that happen here. Someone came in and created some problems. And that's why I asked the question, where do you draw the line? Someone wants to come from out of state just to come in and cause a ruckus? Do you allow them to speak? And that's why I brought the question up. We haven't made a decision on any of that, but I thought we had a lot of good discussion on it.
Yeah, and always keep in mind, I mean, it's limited to 3 minutes, and it's not a question and answer. It's not an interrogation. So more times than not, you'll see those boards, check their watch the clock. 3 minutes is up. Thank you. Move on to the next one. So it doesn't have to create a lot of disruption.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Peebles?
Well, first I want to say thanks for everyone that came out today and gave their opinions on it. That back and forth is awesome. I love it. Also, I wanted to kind of use this as an example of why I'm a fan of the pre-commission meetings, is because when we have these discussions at the pre-meeting workshops, it gave me, like 3 days to really reflect on what we talked about, do some more research based on what the other people of the board and the attorney had said, and kind of getting that, like, really gather my thoughts. So specifically for ordinances and things like that, it's really, really helpful for me. As far as my thoughts on this, I think, like Commissioner Work was saying, that is my concern too. I never want to limit anyone from Bay County, any surrounding areas. That I want nothing to do with that. The idea is that, we don't want people coming in, disrupting our meetings just purely for financial gain from, like Delaware or something. And there is an increase in that happening. In fact, the Deputy General Counsel of the Florida League of Cities sent out a memorandum about this happening, seeing an uptick in it happening. And in my opinion is the best way to go about this is not necessarily focus on who can and can't speak, but more so be very specific in the ordinance on what our decorum is, what disruptive behavior is, and how specifically what disruptive behavior is and what you're not allowed to do. Because if we have that written out in writing specifically what you can and cannot do, have it back on the back of the agenda, it'll be very easy to just look at that agenda and be like, it was right here. You can't do that, sorry. Of course, we do need to discuss exactly what that means, but the League of Cities gave very specific examples in this memorandum, gave Supreme Court cases of instances of this happening. So I think Kevin Obos, our attorney, said that this is a limited form, so it talks specifically about what that is. And so my opinion is that rather than focusing on who can and can't speak, just have very specific rules, because if everyone's playing by the same rules, there shouldn't be as many qualms. You know, if someone from California comes over here with their YouTube camera or whatever, and they start saying something crazy, we can say, hey, sorry, we have rules in place. And we can, you know, and they won't be like, well, what are those rules? You can say, did you read the back of the agenda? You know, and then it'd be pretty easy to just be like, sorry. And that's just my opinion.
Did you have something, city attorney?
No, I mean, I think you can certainly do that. I mean, along the lines of the decorum and, you know, the disruptive behavior, I think you can expand on that. And I think what you're talking about is like, you know, commercial activities. You have somebody come in here to take their 3 minutes and, you know, try to advertise, you know, get free advertisement for themselves for whatever it is. I mean, I think you can certainly, and that's probably what the league is talking about. They've probably seen a lot of that. And, you know, you don't want somebody to come up here and try to sell, you know, solar panels for 3 minutes every single meeting, you know.
Got it.
That's for the door to door. Stay out of here.
Yeah. One question I do have is I was looking at how other cities have, I guess, proceeded with their public meetings. I've seen some where they've actually included their procedures for like the quasi judicial hearings. I know usually when we have one, you and I confer about, you know, how do we want to go through this procedure, or how do we want to, you know, what's the process for that? I have seen some that have included that in their sort of procedures, just, you know, just as a record as to, you know, how they do that. Is that something we need to consider including in this?
It's already in our, it's elsewhere. It may not be in the, it may be in the LDR.
Yeah, I think it is in the.
It is. It's in
that,
there with,
yes, I do remember seeing it
pretty
there.
good detail.
Yeah.
You know, and again, under the statute, that's a quasi judicial hearing is one of those that is can be exempted from just general public comment. Obviously, the applicant and any affected parties, so people, and there's no fine definition of that, but I mean, we dealt with it, you know, a month or two ago, and, you know,
Right.
hey, I live behind it. Well, you're an affected party, you know.
Yeah.
But that's another thing to look at. I mean, that does, are procedures that are already in place. I think it's in the ULDC, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's in just the regular code of ordinances, but it does allow just public comment as well, just like you do on any other agenda item. So that could be something, you know, that you could limit to only affected parties, and that's allowed by statute too.
And I think in looking at some other cities with their quasi judicial, they did give a definition of, you know, your testimony can be, you know, this long versus, you know, it can be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30, you know, they gave a maximum to the amount of testimony for those who sworn in versus just an open period.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be, like I said, it's not court, obviously, but you got to be careful a little bit. I think you can limit like the affected parties, but not necessarily like the city or the applicant, because they have a right to like cross-examine each other and cross-examine
Right.
witnesses and stuff like that. But as far as, okay, now you've got the applicant and you've got the city, then you come into the affected parties, which are the, you know, the others, and you can probably limit, you know, the time on those if you wanted to, but we would need to be specific on that. Okay. And then a step further is just the non-affected parties who are just
public commentary,
whether you want to allow that at all. And the reason you try to, it's probably good why it's exempted from the statute and probably why it's a good idea is because that all gets jumbled into your decision. And so if you're basing your remember we always talk about, you know, you need to base your decision in a quasi-judicial on the testimony that you heard. And it's normally sworn testimony. Well, the general public comment is not sworn testimony. So you could kind of slip up and say, well, somebody said that and it kind of stuck with me. That's why I voted that way. Maybe that wasn't an affected party. That's probably a good reason to kind of, you know, keep it out. Just like, again, you go to court, you're not going to, the public's allowed to sit there and watch, but if they say something, I mean, that shouldn't affect what the judge thinks about it.
Yeah, and what our most recent quasi judicial hearing, I think what you're saying probably, we had a lot of public commentary with that.
We had a lot of affected parties, I think, too. I
Yeah.
mean, most of the people came and identified themselves, and they were willing to be sworn in because they say, hey, I live, behind it or down the street or whatever. And like I said, there's no magic. I mean, is a 1 mile radius, 2 mile radius,
Yeah.
you got to kind of be liberal on that stuff. But it's probably a good idea to look at that ULDC maybe while we're looking at this.
Okay.
And see if we want to tighten that up as well.
And also, I know we've discussed if there's a big turnout for a particular topic or issue, that we could say, okay, hey, we just need, a spokesperson for, this particular topic, or we're going to hear so many on this topic. Not that we're trying to limit people's commentary or their freedom of speech, but is that, although we've talked about that, and I have seen some other cities, again, just put it down as a procedure, not that they have to enact it, but is that something that we need to include in this in case we decide to exercise that at some point?
Yeah, if you want that again, that's actually specifically mentioned in the statute. So, I mean, to kind of comply with that statute, we need to have our, rules and procedures. So, I mean, I think it would be, well, let me take a step back. Right now, this is by ordinance. It may be a good idea to have the ordinance say, oh, hey, we'll comply with, kind of like public records, we'll comply with the statute. And then the actual rules and procedures will be set by resolution from time to time. That way you guys, if there's a different chairman or a different mayor, it's a lot easier to change the procedures and all that sort of stuff. So that may be one thing to consider is in this ordinance, have future changes of the rules and procedures done by resolution. So it's just, one reading and you're in a vote and you're done. But yeah, the statute does allow one of the rules and procedures to say, look, if we've got 35 people coming to talk about the same, I'm opposed to this stop sign. I'm opposed to this stop sign. You can say, look, if you're all from the same street and neighborhood, if you want to, and I think it kind of has to be, voluntary, because you don't want to get, I've heard the same guy, same thing 10 different times. I'm not going to hear anymore. Well, what if the 11th person had something different to say? But you can certainly have that in the procedures to say, look, if you're just here to say what's been said 15 times before you, sit down, and if you have something else to say, come up here and say it. But that is permitted.
Just a point. What about yielding time? Because we had that in the planning board meeting on that topic. That be in the procedures as well?
It can be, and that's up to the chairman, but we've traditionally, not done that.
Right.
You're not following,
You're talking about transferring your time to somebody else.
Right. Like when you get into that, that part of everybody saying the same thing.
And you got to remember that, that comes from Robert's Rules of Order, but, when you look at Robert's Rules, it's talking about the legislative body, right? So you've got congressmen are going to yield at the time. It's not just the public. So, I mean, that's really up to the chair, but certainly I think you could put a line in there that, if the time limit's 3 minutes, it's 3 minutes, and there'd be no yielding of time to others, but it's at the chair's discretion.
All right. Additional comments?
The other thing we discussed, I think, seems like we're kind of in agreement on this, is the signing in part. I think it would help with our meetings, especially when for public commentary, because sometimes people want to talk about something that's on the agenda and they come up public commentary to discuss it. And I think by having those sign-ins, we can look at that and explain, hey, this is going to be in the agenda. You'll have time to speak on that. So I think it'd be beneficial for that, and also what Commissioner Peebles talked about, if we wanted to follow up with somebody for something that they said or get feedback from them or whatever.
I mean, I've seen that before where it's just you write down your name and agenda item 11 or 13, and you little stack of papers and go through it that way.
Just to add with what Commissioner Warwick said, the reason I think that it's a good idea to do it as well with following up is whenever anyone comes up here, I'm writing your name down and your address and all of that. That's like 10, 15 seconds that I'm not putting my full focus on you. And so if I can not have to worry about that and just know that I can go to someone, grab your address and your information and put my full focus on what people are saying, I think that that would just be helpful for everyone involved.
Additional discussion on public meetings. Anything, Ms. Van der Grift?
Well, since you've asked, I think that we want to encourage our citizens to come to meetings and feel free to discuss whatever topic they want to discuss. Personally, I'm in opposition to requiring only citizens or business owners in Lynn Haven speak. I'm on Mr. Perno's side on this discussion. We have to just trust people that they'll conduct themselves appropriately. Robert's Rules of Order does give you the chairman, some authority. But we want this room filled, but if the citizens feel that we are trying to stifle their input or their involvement in the decisions that are made, they won't come. And, we've had criticism about attendance, whether we need to change the times to bring forth more people. But we don't want to do anything to give the impression that we don't want to hear their opinion. I understand what the issues that have been brought up, and they've been on the commission longer than I have, so maybe they've seen more than I've seen. But I want to hear from people. Even if I don't like it, I want to hear from them. We did have a good discussion on Friday. We have differing opinions, but that's good. We give and we take, and the strong points or the weaknesses of the decisions we make or possibly can make, we have an opportunity to discuss it. It's like what Mr. People said, the pre-commission meetings are very informative and beneficial to us when we're preparing to make decisions for the city. So I guess that's all I have to say about that.
Commissioner Perno?
Just to echo Commissioner Vandergrift's sentiments as well, just feel like we've been doing it one way for a long time. People are entitled to come up and talk at public commentary and let us know how you feel. And sometimes it's somebody from out of town, and we just roll with the punches. We always kind of have. And I serve on the TPO board, and Mayor Henderson is she and city attorney will tell you, she gives everybody all the time they need. It runs a long meeting sometimes, but anybody who has an opinion has a right to talk on it. So I just feel like, and you guys served in the military, you're fighting for everybody's rights to have that freedom of speech, whether it's against or what you believe in or not. So I just think at this point in my service to the city of Lynn Haven, I just don't want to see a change that would cause. It might be better that we think it's a good thing, but anything that comes across perceived restrictive is not good as far as I'm concerned. So I'd just like to leave it as it is, but whatever we can do to streamline, if it means that we get someone's name on a piece of paper and we could get back with them, that makes sense. But other than that, I'm just my feeling is let people come. This is a town meeting. If anybody cares enough to get here and talk, let them talk.
Discussion? Meeting adjourned.